Hi, this is Mike making my video. Uh, this year. This is Mike making my video. Uh, Today is Friday the 25th, 2025 of April, and it's 5:25 a.m. Anyway, I'm making a video and I'm talking about basically manifestation. Uh, I'm talking about you know the miracle of basically the supernatural. And when your vibrations are high enough, you basically uh, wake up, parts of your mind that were dormant. And these dormant aspects of your mind, basically become alive. A lot of times, your heart and your mind, a lot of people that are kind of focused on their mind too much, uh, they focus on their intellect at behest of the heart, So anyway, your heart and your mind, when you get them both acting together, uh, you have a more powerful mind. And you know, uh, it's like your DOS operating system. Your biofeedback loop that uh, when your heart, your beating heart, your physical heart, and different aspects of your body, your lungs, uh, your breathing. You slow your breathing down, and you slow your heart rate down, and you basically go to where you're almost like you're sleeping, if that makes any sense. And when you have paralysis of your body, you stay still. You don't move around a lot. You slow your breathing down, and you slow your heart rate down, and you have this flow state that takes over. And especially when you're sleeping, you have DMT that's being released when you're sleeping, and basically you can do miracles in your dreams, and you're doing things that you normally can't do. Well, the thing is when you stay awake long enough, you deny the flesh. You deny the flesh of sexual pleasures, and you deny the flesh of food, and you don't worry about eating all the time. And it's like Jesus said, your stomach is your God. And when you turn that aspect of yourself off, what happens is your heart and your mind become one, and you have this feeling, where you feel like you're connected to everybody, and you're in love with the world, and you start to be in love with yourself, and you have this overwhelming sense of peace. So basically, thaws out your heart, melts all that wax, and you basically become uh, you know open to things. And when you're open to things, you basically you're setting yourself up for basically uh, receiving things. So there's the law of vibration, the law of correspondence, giving and taking, uh, the law of gender. Basically the male and female energies are no longer male, they're no longer female. You're stoic, and you basically don't do the things that the stereotypes that those energies are associated with. So the men become more feminine. They start to use their heart, and they start to feel open to everything. Women tend, they're already in that state, but then they start to learn how to become like more like a man is. So you switch roles and genders. I'm not saying, you know, to have sex with men if you're a man, or have a woman having sex with a woman. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that you open your heart and you open your mind. So women become more rational and men become more spiritual. So anyway, there's that, and then you know, we're just stuck in a simulation, and it's more of a prison than anything. And then when you break through, when you break out of that mold, that prison that we're in, that we're more or less stuck in a static, state of being, a default state. And then, when you break out of that default state, you rise above it. And when you rise above it, what happens is you're able to control space-time reality. And, your reptilian mind, brain, is actually put aside, and all those things that have to do with the body are denied. And when you do that, basically what you're doing is you're allowing your mind to take over. The servant, basically, and the master. The master, your executive functions are cut down, and the frontal lobes, start to take off, and then your creative side becomes more powerful. God's foolishness is greater than man's wisdom. And that's what they're saying in that sense of the word, is that your creative mind takes over, and it's in charge of creating things that people normally don't associate with. And then once you start doing that on a regular basis, you start realizing that your creative mind takes over, and you start to perform miracles. And then it just gets to the point where you burn out all those connections, and it's kind of like they get overused, and then you basically can't do the same miracle twice. That's why some of these people on DMT, they say they get kicked out of different worlds or different realms of existence, and they're banned from going back there. And the reason being is that it's all computer generated, and your mind is a computer, a very advanced computer. But once you've done that, once you've crossed that bridge, you've entered in, let's say, heaven's domain of some type. You can't necessarily keep going back and forth. And I've been barred from different places, and that's due to the fact that my mission was done, and there was no more miracles that can be performed in that sense of the word. So anyway, it's just, once you've done that, once you've burned all those things out, once those logic gates, get overused, you can't perform the same miracle twice. And a lot of times, people were demanding Jesus to perform a miracle, and he was saying you can't force a miracle to happen. It happens at the right time. And your subconscious mind works in opposition. You don't let your right hand know what the left hand is doing, meaning that your right and left mind, they're separate. And a lot of times your conscious mind, has no clue what your subconscious mind is up to. So, that's why sometimes when the Christ concept, comes like a thief in the night, and you become that way. But the thing is you can't necessarily plan for it. You can't necessarily say it's over here or over there where that place is at. It's inside of you. I mean, they say it's on the inside and the outside, but really, it's truly on the inside being projected outwardly. So if a tree falls in the woods and nobody was there to witness it, does it make a sound, or did it even fall? Or even, really, does it even exist? So nothing exists outside this simulation. That's the truth of the matter. I've seen that in video games, where it's very convincing that you're in a world, but the thing is it's all being generated. And the CPU, to preserve computational power, basically, only shows the front view or the side view. And it's the same with us. We're wearing goggles. And, it's like we're wearing goggles. That's our eyes. And what we see, and hear and taste and touch and smell is all just electrical impulses. It's not to say that those things are real, because they're not. Everything just disappears, when you escape that. Walls disappear, ceilings disappear. You can physically walk through walls, and I mean, I became weightless before, but I mean, almost to the point where I weighed like a pound. But there are people that literally, I suppose, kids and whatnot, they can levitate. So here's the deal. People are putting all this thought and effort into AI, and they're talking about super intelligence. The thing is all that shit doesn't mean nothing, and all the rules of physics are out the window. Quantum theory proves that. That all those things. There's God doesn't play dice, is what Einstein would always say. But the truth of the matter is that yeah, it is just a crapshoot. And they try to say that they try to use a ruler to measure the kingdom of heaven, and they can't. And the thing is with that being said, their mathematics are flawed, and so is the English language is flawed. There's so many different ways to see it and take it. There's 6 different ways, let's say, to interpret one thing, and there's with all that, so there's so much confusion and obfuscation with all that. So if you figure about it, the human language is flawed, mathematics is flawed. It's ever evolving, those two things, and without mathematics and without, so all the sciences are basically flawed, and then physics, and then psychology. So with that being said, those types of things, you got glitches in the matrix, and you have things that the empirical knowledge can't define. It's ineffable. So all it is just a simulation. It's inside your head. What makes sense to somebody else can clearly not make sense to anybody else. It's all relative. So that's why I think this artificial intelligence is going to be out the window. I mean, yeah, it's just a resource, but it should never be emphasized so much. And it's kind of a fallacy, and reality itself is a fallacy. And with that being said, you find out that things disappear. It's almost like Alice in Wonderland. And once you enter into this wonderland, you find out that things don't follow the same laws. And even in this physical world that we're in, this default state, that state is even subject to change. Nothing is built on solid foundations. It's all built on shifting sands. In this world and the one above it, so they're saying that the projected world that we see are higher consciousness and, basically the lower consciousness. As above, so below, as within, so without, so there's that. But the thing is everything changes. Nothing's set in stone, and nothing is static. It's all fluid. So anyway, that's all I really had to say. And I know that it's all an illusion, computer generated, and they're always looking outside themselves. They don't look on the inside. That's really where it's at, the seat of the soul. That's where all the answers are. That they examine the heavens and the earth, but they don't come to know the one who's in their presence. So anyway, that's all I have to say for now. Over and out.